This is Turd Flinging Monkey for TFM News. Now, this is going to be a little unusual for TFM News, but I'm going to be talking about a topic, and I'm going to be referencing several news articles. But I'm not necessarily commenting directly on these articles. These aren't new articles. They're from 2013, 2014. But the topic is why prenups are worthless. Hence the title, The 3 Reasons Your Prenup is Worthless. Now, because I've done several videos about why marriage is a bad deal for men, I get the occasional comment from some guy saying, you know, all you need is a prenup and you don't have to worry about all this stuff. And it's that kind of thinking that gets men into trouble. The truth is, a prenup is not going to help you. If you create a prenup that's actually designed to protect you, it's going to get thrown out. Now, the first reason that your prenup is worthless is because it could be thrown out for being unfair. Unfair towards who? Unfair towards the woman, of course. In fact, in an article in Forbes called 5 Reasons Your Prenup Might Be Invalid, number 5 reads, the agreement contains ridiculous provisions or is simply too lopsided. Quote, for instance, if your prenup states no child support whatsoever will be paid in the event of divorce, it is likely to be thrown out. Provisions in the prenup about weight gain, hair color, frequency of sexual relations, visits by in-laws, remember the judges have heard it all, are likely not to hold up in court either, unquote. When a woman gets a man's shit, she didn't work for any of it. When a couple gets a divorce, the woman gets at least half. A lot of states give her more than half, especially if she was a stay-at-home mom. They think that she deserves even more than half the assets, even though the husband earned them all. So she begins with over 50%, and then she gets child support and alimony on top of that. At the end of the day, the man rarely has enough money to maintain a single standard of living. He's usually behind. Even though he may be earning more money than he did in his 20s, he probably has a much lower standard of living post-divorce than he had as a single man in his 20s. Because now all of his money is going to his ex-wife. I mean, there are a lot of men who after a divorce have to live out of their car, have to move back in with their parents. How is that fair? Yet if a man creates a document that protects him from this, so that he's not liable, if she wants to leave, she can leave, there's the door, but you're not getting any of my shit, the judge will declare that that is unfair and throw it out. Now, of course, this doesn't nullify the marriage. This doesn't nullify the divorce. The divorce is still happening. She's getting all your shit, but that prenup that you thought was there to protect you, is now gone because a judge decided it was unfair, that it didn't give the woman enough. In fact, in another article from the Huffington Post titled, When a Prenup Gets Thrown Out, it reads, quote, when someone finds that the property to be received in a divorce is less than what would normally occur because of what is required by the prenuptial agreement, often the next step is to contact the best divorce lawyer you can find to try to get the agreement set aside. When the amount of alimony to be paid is far less than what the receiving spouse would receive without such an agreement, advice as how to set aside the agreement becomes necessary. A divorce judge will first look at whether the prenuptial agreement is unfair as compared to what the court would do without the agreement. For example, has one of the spouses given up property or alimony rights that would have been available during a divorce without the existence of the prenuptial agreement? If there is a significant difference in what the court would do with and without the existence of the agreement, then the courts can determine that the agreement is unfair, unquote. Now, in this gynocentric system, when the divorce laws so heavily favor the woman, and anything that deviates from that gynocentrism can be deemed unfair by the courts, how do you expect your prenup to protect you? The judge, I mean, especially if you get some mangina feminist judge, he's just going to throw it out because it's unfair. It could be completely legal in every other way, but because it was unfair, because you weren't giving this woman at least half your shit, it's just going to get thrown out. And then it's gone, and she's getting half your shit plus whatever else the judge wants to throw on top of it. Maybe to punish you for being such a horrible person, for trying to outsmart her by getting her to sign away her whatever she was owed. So the number one reason why your prenup is worthless is because in this gynocentric system, anything that deviates from the standard complete just payout to the woman is considered unfair and is grounds for the prenup for being thrown out. The next article comes from Business Insider and is called How This Woman Managed to Get Her $1 Million Prenup Thrown Out. And it talks about Elizabeth Coffey Paterakis. I don't fucking care how she pronounces her name. Basically, she had a prenup with her husband. She wasn't entitled to any of the shit. And what she did is she claimed that they made an oral agreement that after the children were born, the prenup would be thrown out. Now, nothing was in writing, but she claims that they made an oral agreement. And then when he didn't invalidate the prenup after the children were born, she decided to divorce him and challenge his prenup. And of course, the judge believed the woman's word over a legal document and threw the prenup out, because crocodile tears and sob stories is just as good as a legal binding document. Now, how do I know this? In the article, it reads that she claimed Peter promised to throw out the agreement once they had kids. Quote, they have 3 now, but he allegedly didn't keep his word after the couple split. Her name was also never added to the deed of his $3 million home, which was once featured in the New York Times, unquote. Now, she claims this, but she has no proof. If she had proof, the article would have stated that. So here you have a woman just comes up with some bullshit story. Now, you have this document, it's signed, it's notarized, it's perfectly legal. Then she can just claim that, oh, you agreed that 10 years after we were married, you were going to rip up the prenup and you never did. And you're like, bitch, I never said that. And she's going to say, yeah, you did. Boo-hoo-hoo. And the judge is going to say, oh, I believe you. Look at those crocodile tears. Of course you're telling the truth. You have a vagina. And vaginas can never lie. So the second reason your prenup is worthless is because she can turn to the judge, claim that you made some kind of oral agreement to nullify the prenup, and that's just as good as a legal document. Depending on the judge, and in this gynocentric system, you're probably going to get a judge that's a complete feminist or mangina. I mean, especially in the divorce court system. There aren't a lot of people in the divorce court system who give a shit about men's rights. This is why the best way to survive is to stay completely out of that system completely. And the third reason why your prenup is worthless is because of all the loopholes. Now, this is going to require a little bit of explaining, so I'm going to reference yet another article called How to Break a Prenup from ABC News. So the first loophole regarding your prenup is when was it signed in relation to the marriage. If you spring the prenup on her after you're engaged, but before the wedding, and say, you know what, you need to sign this or I'm not marrying you, she can claim coercion. She can claim that she only signed it because you were going to back out of the marriage and her family was heading over and boo-hoo-hoo, so she felt coerced to sign it. You go through with the ceremony, she divorces you and gets half your shit and gets the prenup thrown out. From the ABC article, quote, the closer the contract is signed to the wedding date, the easier it is to break, a result of parties not having had time to fully vet the contents of the contract, unquote. Another thing they can do is they can use your pre-existing relationship before you were married, in which you wouldn't have the fiduciary responsibility to enter into a contract. Let me just unpack that by reading you this quote from the article, quote, if the couple had been living together, was already involved sexually, and had perhaps made babies together, their relationship is unique. If the prenup does not reflect that, it can be tossed out. If the couple was established, they have a confidential relationship, which is different from the sort of fiduciary relationships two people looking to enter a business contract might have, unquote. So, basically, if you're entering an arranged marriage, and you don't know this bitch at all, then the prenup is slightly more likely to be upheld. But if this is your girlfriend you've had for a couple of years, you've lived together for a while, you decide to tie the knot but sign a prenup, but the prenup doesn't give the woman whatever, then the judge can declare that this does not reflect a relationship before the marriage and throw it out that way. Now, there's other things like lacking capacity, lacking legal counsel, a whole bunch of things. If you just prepare the document, give it to the woman and say, you need to sign this or I'm not marrying you, and you don't give her access to a lawyer, or she could just claim to be intoxicated. I mean, look at the yes means yes shit. If the woman has one drink in the last 24 hours, she's been raped. And she can claim that, you talked to her and she had some wine that evening, and then she signed this prenup and, oh, she was drunk. It was prenup rape. She can scream prenup rape. And of course, then it gets thrown out. Because if any alcohol is in that woman's system, she's not responsible for any of her actions. In fact, the ABC News article says, quote, many lawyers are increasingly videotaping the signing of prenups to prove at a later date that both people willingly enter the contract without being influenced or coerced. So here's the deal. Even if you jump through all the hoops, even if you get it videotaped, make sure she hasn't had a drop of alcohol in the last 24 hours, everything's on the up and up, it'll still get thrown out if she comes up with a sob story. Promised to get rid of it later and didn't. It'll still get thrown out if the judge just decides it's not fair. You didn't give the woman enough of your money. And just throws that out anyway. I mean, a prenup is basically like the club, that thing that you put on your steering wheel in your car. It doesn't actually make your car theft proof. What it does is it causes thieves to look at that, see the club attached to your steering wheel, and move on to an easier target. Now, a prenup might help you if you're just some Joe Schmo. Maybe a prenup is all you need. Maybe the woman's like, you know what? I don't have the money or the time to hire a bunch of lawyers and come up with some elaborate scheme to get this prenup thrown out. I guess I'll just hang around. And then whoopee, you have a woman that you get to take care of the rest of your life. Congratulations. But if you're established, if you're a celebrity, if you're a millionaire, if you have the money, and some gold-digging whore decides that it's worth her while to get this prenup thrown out, she will get that prenup thrown out. Your prenup is worthless. It's just the club. It causes women to move on to an easier target. But if someone is bound and determined to steal that car, that little thing on your steering wheel is not going to protect you, and that prenup is not going to protect you. The only thing that will protect you is not getting married in the first place. Unfortunately, that is the only viable option. This is Turd Flinging Monkey signing off.